You know that moment when your teenager says, "I'll be fine," and you answer, "Okay," but your mind keeps running long after the conversation ends? You tell yourself you trust them, you really do, and yet you still check the time. You still listen for the door. You still feel that small knot in your chest that doesn't fully relax until they're back in front of you. It looks like you're being overprotective, but psychologically, that's usually not what's happening at all. For years, Gen X was described as the independent generation. You walked home alone, you made your own snacks, you stayed outside until the streetlights came on. No constant supervision, no tracking apps, no one texting every hour. From the outside, it looked like freedom, and in many ways it was. But here's the part that doesn't always get said out loud. Freedom and emotional safety are not the same thing. A child can be capable and still feel alone. A child can be strong and still feel unseen. Many Gen X kids learned how to handle things quietly. If something went wrong, you figured it out. If something scared you, you swallowed it. You adapted. That independence became part of your identity, but your nervous system remembers the parts that were heavy, even if you rarely talk about them. Now, you're the parent. Your child walks out the door the same way you once did, and something inside you tightens. Not because you believe they're weak, not because you think they can't handle life, but because your body remembers what it felt like to handle big things alone. This is where it gets interesting. Your reaction isn't about distrust, it's about memory. Psychologically, when we grow up managing stress without much support, the brain becomes alert. It learns to scan for problems early. It learns that being prepared equals being safe. That wiring doesn't disappear in adulthood. It simply shifts direction. Instead of protecting yourself, it now tries to protect your child. So when you double-check plans or ask for one more update, it isn't control, it's a nervous system doing what it was trained to do. There's also a quiet contradiction that many Gen X parents carry. You believe in resilience, you value independence, you don't want to hover. At the same time, you want your child to feel supported in ways you didn't always experience. You want them strong, but not alone. You want them brave, but not unsupported. Those two desires can pull against each other, and sometimes you feel that tension without fully knowing why. Here's the part most people miss. Gen X grew up during major social shifts. Divorce rates were rising. Both parents were often working. Media exposure was expanding. The world felt uncertain in subtle ways. No one necessarily explained it like that, but children feel change even when it isn't discussed. So you adapted to unpredictability by becoming self-reliant. That strategy worked, but it also trained your brain to stay alert. Now the world feels uncertain again, just in different ways. Social media, online risks, academic pressure, constant information. Your brain sees these new layers and reacts quickly. Unknown territory can feel like potential danger, so you stay attentive, you watch, you monitor. Not because you want control, but because your system equates vigilance with love. Many Gen X parents also carry a quiet emotional awareness that wasn't modeled for them. You try to talk about feelings more openly. You reflect on your reactions. You question yourself. You wonder if you're doing too much or not enough. That self-questioning isn't weakness. It often comes from noticing what you didn't receive and wanting to offer something different. There's another layer here that feels subtle but powerful. Many Gen X adults say, "I turned out fine." And that's true, you did. But sometimes there's an unspoken second sentence. It was harder than it needed to be. Both truths can exist at the same time. You are strong because of your childhood, and you carry invisible stress because of it. That stress doesn't always show up as obvious anxiety. It often shows up as constant low-level alertness. Psychologists talk about how the brain links past emotion to present situations. It doesn't carefully separate timelines. If something once felt overwhelming, the body remembers that feeling when a similar theme appears. So when your child faces a challenge, it may connect to the part of you that once felt alone in a challenge. The reaction can feel bigger than the moment, not irrational, just layered. Around this point, you might recognize yourself in these patterns. If you do, you're not alone in that. These quiet psychological layers show up in many people who grew up in the same era. If these conversations help you see yourself more clearly, you can stay connected here. There's something powerful about understanding the patterns instead of judging them. What makes the psychology of a Gen X parent unique is this blending of independence and protectiveness. You survived with little supervision, so you know kids can be capable, but you also know how heavy that responsibility felt at times. So you try to offer space and support at the same time. It can feel like walking a tightrope. One side says, let them grow. The other side says, make sure they never feel alone. This is where the emotional depth lives. Underneath the monitoring and the questions and the late-night waiting is often something softer, a younger version of you. Coming home to an empty house, solving problems quietly, learning not to expect too much help. That child became competent, but that child also learned self-reliance because there was no other option. When your own child says, I've got it, you feel proud, and you might also feel a small echo of something else. Maybe a hope that they never have to carry everything by themselves the way you sometimes did. That mix of pride and tenderness can be confusing, but it makes sense. You are parenting forward while carrying history backward. The psychology here isn't about being too strict or too anxious. It's about a generation raised on independence now raising children in a hyper-connected world. It's about memory meeting responsibility. It's about love filtered through experience. When you see it like that, your reactions feel less like flaws and more like patterns shaped by context. You are not broken for feeling watchful. You are not failing because you care deeply. You are someone who adapted early in life and is now trying to offer strength and safety. That balance is complex. It isn't always smooth, but it's deeply human. If this reflection resonated with you, subscribing helps keep these conversations going. And if you want to support deeper explorations like this, joining the channel genuinely makes a difference. At the end of the day, maybe the goal isn't to erase your protectiveness or amplify it. Maybe it's simply to understand where it comes from, to notice that beneath the alertness is love, beneath the tension is memory, beneath the contradiction is care. You grew up learning how to stand alone. Now you're learning how to stand beside someone else while they grow. Both versions of you deserve compassion, and sometimes just seeing that clearly is enough.